Hello, my name is Max Banfield. Welcome to my talk. Today I will be talking about firewalking, the facts and the fiction. Discuss first of all an introduction, very briefly, then the facts, the scientific and factual basis of it, and then I'll be discussing the fiction relating to it and what you've been told. In the 1980s and 90s, I'd be listening to the radio and watching TV programs, and they would increase their ratings on a regular basis by discussing controversial topics. And every year, there would be someone coming from America touring the world to every city and saying that they could teach people how to use the power of their minds to walk on a path of hot coals without feeling pain. That they could then use that power to cure and control their own arthritis or their own headaches or back pain. That I thought, what a load of baloney. What's the trick? And this went on for about 6 years or more. He'd come to Australia, touring the world every year with the same statements and appear on the same radio stations and TV shows. And so I decided to go to the library and check up on whether or not anyone had actually studied this to find out how they did it. And it turns out that there have been studies on this, and I recommend you have a look at them yourself. This is not a trick that's invented by someone clever like Albert Einstein. It's a trick invented by a Neanderthal man, a tribes person. And what the basic idea was this. They would run up and down on rocky paths to get a layer of calluses on their feet so that they could walk on a path of hot coals for a longer distance than the tribes people who didn't know the trick. And then the tribes people would think that these gurus had some sort of wisdom or some sort of knowledge that was superior to their own. And then these gurus would start saying that they could, predict the weather, predict crops, predict all sorts of things. So the tribe would treat them as if they had some kind of wisdom, which they didn't have. It was just a trick. And in modern times, there's not just one or two tricks going on here. There are a lot of different tricks that go into this particular stunt. So let me first of all describe the facts. If you get out of your car on a hot sunny day, 40 degrees Celsius, and you put your bare feet on a cement path, it's going to hurt. So you're going to instinctively just run fast until you get to a patch of grass. Well, if you do that, you'll understand that you can't stand on hot concrete without burning your feet, but you can walk fast across it. The next thing that you can consider is this. The foot you walk around on your feet all the time. And so they develop a hard layer of skin. And the skin has 3 layers. Don't worry about the jargon, but this is it. You get the epidermis, the dermis, and the hypodermis. And the top layer of skin has 5 smaller layers. And that skin is essentially dead. So it doesn't feel pain. And you can compare this to cutting your hair. Your hair's dead, you don't feel it. But try pulling it out by the roots and you will feel pain because you're getting into the deeper nerves there. You can cut your fingernails and it doesn't hurt because your fingernails are dead. But if you pulled them out with a pair of pliers, you'd feel pain. And that's the trick. It's the deep part of the skin that feels pain, not the surface that's dead. The other part of the trick is this. That part of the skin takes a while for the heat to penetrate. So supposing to make it easy to understand, supposing it takes 1 second for the heat to get through the layer of skin to a nerve, you're not going to feel pain for the first second. Supposing when you walk, your foot is only touching the surface of the heat for 1/10 of a second. That means you can take 10 steps before the heat gets through the skin to the nerve. And then the nerve transmits the sensation of pain to the brain. So you can walk 10 steps, you won't feel anything. And in addition, consider that when you walk, your foot comes off the ground, passes through air before you put it on the coals for another 1/10 of a second. And then it goes through the air again. Each time you step and the foot goes through the air, step, foot goes through the air. You're dissipating the heat. So you can actually walk longer than you would expect. So that's the trick. The heat actually doesn't get through that dead skin to a nerve. So you don't even feel pain. And if you go to these firewalking programs, they only have paths that are about 5 metres long, or probably less. And so you're not going to be walking long enough for the heat to get through. So that's part of it. The next thing you need to understand is, how did they make you think it's your mind that's doing this? Well, first of all, you can construct fires with rocks that retain heat, or rocks that are insulating, with woods that burn hot or wood that burns cooler. And you can, they will light the fire, they will chop the wood down, they will stamp the wood down till you've got burning embers, coal and dust. And they will generally have a path of, they might have matting before and after, so you can start off on that and end on that. So there's about 5 yards of hot coals. And they will scrape some of the coals from that area onto the sand or the matting before it. They will also do this at night, because if you see these fires during the daytime, you probably just kick the coals out of the way. You wouldn't think twice about it. But at night, it's dramatic. It's like they do in the movies. They make drama out of rather mundane things. Hot coals burning at night looks 10 times hotter than it does during the day. That's why they do these stunts at night. And they will have burning candles around the place that burn and light the general area with the colour red. That makes the path look even hotter. They may even measure the temperature. What they do then is they'll scrape some of the coals onto the sandy patch before the path starts. And then what they're doing is they're mixing the coals and the ash with the sand. Are you with me so far? Now, so they've set up this fire at night, and 20 to 50 people will arrive, and they're paid $1,000 each. Now, $20,000 to $50,000 they're going to get per night, because people with back pain and neck ache want a cure, and they think that this will be the way to do it. So they've paid their money. And then the guru will make sure that at night the grass before the path has dew on it, because that's moist, watery. And if it hasn't, they will water it with sprinklers. Are you with me so far? Now then, they will try to convince you that it's the power of your mind that is going to help you walk across the path of hot coals. So what they will do is things like this. They will say, look at the stars and let all the wisdom of Encyclopedia Britannica come into your head in 2 seconds by absorbing the light from the stars. And they'll tell you to stamp up and down and utter a chant, any type of chant. And while you're stamping around on your feet staring at the stars, your feet are getting wet because you're on wet grass. Are you with me so far? They will then say, we want you to stamp up and down in a little dance and absorb the wisdom of the stars by uttering another chant. And that's because they want you to stamp your feet up and down on the ash and the sand so that it mixes with the water to form an insulating paste on your feet. But you don't notice that because you're staring at the stars. They will then say, now that you have the power of the mind, we want you to walk bravely across the hot coals, which are only 5 yards long. And these people have paid their $1,000, are not convinced, so they're scared. So they will scamper across those coals. They won't walk casually across the coal. They'll scamper across. And when they get to the other side, they'll throw their hands in the air. I did it. The power of the mind has enabled them to do the firewalking. When it hasn't. The heat hasn't even penetrated their skin because they've only stepped on the coals for a total of half a second in 5 yards. So that's how the trick is done. Now, some people have been reported as ending up in hospital. How does that happen? Well, the gurus will say that they didn't get the power of the mind. But the reality is a piece of hot coals gets stuck in their toes and it's there for 4 or 5 seconds and it burns and they end up in hospital. Now, in addition to that, 5 or 10 years later, if you ask people who are burnt what happened, they will make some sort of excuse about it. The reason they do that is because people don't like their friends to know they were conned. And so they will find some way of supporting these situations. But from your point of view, it's a stunt. And there'll be all sorts of attempts to convince you that there's some way that you can give power of the mind to walk on coals and you can cure your headaches, your backaches, your neck aches and every other problem known to man that no one else can cure. It's a stunt. And what you need to deal with these situations is a brain and knowledge, because the power of the mind can't prevent pain from walking up path of hot coals. I hope you understand that and that you'll check the facts and that you will tell your friends and maybe tell them where you got this information from. My name is Max Banfield.